A couple of days ago, the second trailer for the upcoming film adaptation of Frank Herbert's DUNE by Denis Villeneuve was released for the world to see. In the following video, I will speak my mind about what is presented to us in it, and also about my hopes and worries around the production. I want to articulate thoughts that one could find interesting to listen to even after the film comes out. Here it goes. It has been said by others, I believe, that one can assemble Dune out of bits and pieces of the films Villeneuve has made so far. It is as if Dune was a ghost pulsating behind his other works, inspiring and guiding them. In that sense, the upcoming movie is really exciting because it feels as if Dune is the film he has always wanted to do. And thus far he has but settled and adapted to the screen different stories that are, say, the separate limbs and organs that will then assemble, Voltron style, into the full Dune. Sicario, as an epic story of war near and in the desert, featured shots like the one that welcomes us into the trailer. From above, the desert landscape looks like an abstract painting, very beautiful, flat, elegant. It does necessitate the inclusion of the following image, where a more traditional perspective allows us to read the desert as an actual place. In that way, we form a stereoscopic perspective. We seem to have ditched poor old Princess Irulan, given her the boot, so to speak, and replaced her with Chani, who is now charged with narrating the introduction to Dune. This confirmed by people that have watched the first 10 minutes of the film. I very much dislike this. The tone of her narration has that nasty anti-colonialism stench, which is unwelcome not only because it does not fit the mentality of the proud Fremen race, who chose their leaders via combat, meaning they believe in might is right completely, and would therefore never see themselves as victims, but also because Irulan's perspective was the perspective of history. The fact that each chapter in the book is introduced by a quote or excerpt from some sort of historical record looking back at the events we read about as current and unfolding makes us aware that we are witnessing living myth, living history. Chani's perspective, at least as it is laid out in this narration, does not fit the world of the novel at all. She says, ravaging our lands, which makes no sense. The point is the tyranny of the Harkonnen to them as a people, which is what the beautiful, out-of-focus, and briskly edited images show, and that's great. Still, the narration not only doesn't fit the book, but more importantly seems to present a much less nuanced and specific idea of the conflict, no doubt for the benefit of a modern audience that would perhaps be lost if they didn't have the tropes they are used to consuming available. In any case, visually, this is very rich. Classic science fiction images galore, mixed with very vivid, realistic visions, like out-of-focus spice beads glimmering above the desert sands. Putting aside the issue of her narration, the casting of Zendaya as Chani is great. She looks sweet as a pie and lovely, both in her sexy see-through desert gown and her Fremen desert suit. The blue eyes effect is great, subtle, and believable. It amuses me to anticipate bitches bitching about having blue eyes signify being superior in the near future. Let us all enjoy that sweet chorus of nasally voiced complaints when the day comes. I won't comment on each individual image, because many of these compositions stem from a long tradition of visual fantasy and could each have a video dedicated to them alone. I am, of course, not numb to the many pleasures available here. This, and this, and this, and this looks fucking awesome. You no doubt agree. I will say I like this kind of shot, one Michael Bay does often, where the sun peeks out behind a beautiful female and at times overwhelms the image with its rays, as if the beauty is the sun itself. Chani, for sure, is the sun of Paul's life. Castle Caladan looks very beautiful from what we have seen. The library, Paul's bedroom. Brutalist architecture and shapes abound in the film, which is an inspired choice. Caladan is imbued with a subtle blue hue, to better convey the contrast between the water-rich planet and with golden, arid Arrakis. Similar to what they do in the Matrix film, where the real world is blue and the Matrix is green. The following exchange between Duncan and Paul gives us much to celebrate and much to worry about as well. In this shot, the brutalist shapes make a beautiful frame for our characters' sincere interaction. We can feel the warmth between the two, which is great. The visuals, casting, costumes are all great. The repeated friendly gesture Jason Momoa chose to do isn't great though. It feels like he has a limited vocabulary as an actor to resort to the same thing twice like that. But hey, Duncan isn't supposed to be the brightest guy in the room, so maybe that fits. Still, the little warm joke he makes is not coherent with the character. He basically calls out Paul for being a scrawny kid, which he most certainly isn't, and, as one of his instructors, Duncan would know, Paul is basically as strong and fearsome physically as a boy his age could be. They do this, no doubt, to make modern audiences at ease with its characters, by making them speak and joke around as they surmise modern audiences do. But wouldn't a big part of the appeal of fantasy and science fiction be to listen to slang and banter that is also alien and exotic, different at least from what you hear today in the US of A? I expect better from Villeneuve. This shot of the Emperor's emissaries' ship's landing gear is pretty cool. Brutalism is an architectural style from the 50s characterized by minimalist constructions that showcase the bare building materials and structural elements over decorative design. Brutalism looks futuristic and primitive at the same time, like the font used for the title, which looks both sci-fi and cuneiform. Extremely pertinent, since that's a very large part of what Dune is all about, a world that is both a distant future and a distant mythic past. Another cool detail is the fact the landing gear mechanism looks so simple, as if it was composed of pure metal shapes animated by some unseen magnetic force. The universe of Dune is not a universe of computers, rather a world that always emphasizes the importance of the human element. It's science fiction where one dreams about the future of the human, not the future of the machine. Therefore, simple-looking machines are the way to go. Impeccable design. Also, the huge spherical ship reminds me of heavy metal. I wouldn't be surprised to learn it's an intended reference. It looks so dominating, even if its shapes aren't really aggressive. I guess it could also be a Death Star reference, considering how Villeneuve has described Dune in the past as Star Wars for adults. The insanely large, perfectly flat landing space on which the ship arrives is also very coherent with the idea of the technology of Dune. The power of humanity expressed in stark, simple artificial lines imposed onto a landscape. Very surreal. The special effect for the energy shields is also cool. Maybe retro in a way. It looks visual, like a layer of emphasis on top of each character instead of a machine, which, again, fits very well with the general concept of technology in Dune, something that only serves to underlie the power of mankind. The bond between Gurney and Paul is also emphasized here. Paul is a hero of many fathers. The casting of what looks to be the Emperor's emissary is interesting. A very handsome man. His clothes make him look like a Catholic priest. It seems the way the movie will showcase the space-bending travel technology will be pretty straightforward. A tunnel that opens in space connecting two very distant locations. I like that there isn't any sort of fancy effect around it. It makes for a more memorable visual to have it be very simple, I feel. Humanity imposes thus a simple tunnel across impossibly large distances. I am obsessed with images where we see characters from the back. Something very powerful is expressed there, I feel. The shot emphasizes the sense of adventure and the fact that our heroes will face adversity together as a group. I just love it. I love Jessica's fashion sense as well. She looks so feminine and mysterious. I am eager to find out how the usual crowd of communists will react to the Bene Gesserit. In the books, they are basically professional superwomen, and not androgynous or in conflict with their nature at all. They are not resentful in the least either. Hopefully, the movie won't trade in those amazing concepts in favor of any sort of feminist vision. I don't like to hear Chani telling fucking Paul he needs to face his fears. The logic of the film could very well end up being that of endlessly apologizing for telling the story they want to tell, which is one of the appearance and ascent of a superhuman ruler. None of Chani's dialogue thus far sounds like it should. It doesn't betray a mind that has lived the life she has. She sounds like the rest of the characters, like someone out of our age. It also makes no sense to make the Fremen into a multiracial group, since they have been breeding exclusively among themselves in isolation for thousands of years. So even if they would have started out very diverse, by now they would all mostly look the same. That idea of ethnic people is ignorant, stupid, condescending, and sincerely offensive. To group together people as different as Javier Bardem and Mr. Olusanmokun here. But here we are. Fremen are now ethnic, instead of a set group with a set genetic identity. Please don't misunderstand. I don't believe cultural or genetic mixing to be undesirable by definition, but the theme of genes is central, core even, to Dune. I am not complaining about the choice of actors individually either, but the Fremen should look much more homogeneous. Any lover of Frank Herbert's work will agree. Some shots with an awesome sense of scale and tangible reality here. Again, emphasizing simple shapes, an artificially flat expanse touching the horizon in all directions, filled with great ships and a disembarking army. Really cool. You feel there. We have both a visual spectacle and a sense of weight, the little things that make things feel real. Dear old Harkonnens. In the book, the impression I got from them is that they were like sadistic Romans. They seem to be a pretty joyful bunch, really. The Baron seemed to be a joyful guy, cultivating his own hunger and ambition. They are meant to be noble at heart, a genetic line more than worth preserving according to the Bene Gesserit, and half of the equation that produces Paul. Here they look very Soviet, very evil. They are doing a ghastly, Christian-looking ritual, which I think is similar but also crucially different from what we had in the book. A gladiatorial circus spectacle followed by a planet-wide fete, a party. To me, the core of Dune, one of its main glowing points, is the fact that the world of the books is a world beyond evil, a world beyond the concept of evil and sin. There is suffering and strife for sure, but there is no bad guy, really. Nobody is seen in that idiotic light. Similar to, say, Gundam, where nobody is made to be the black sheep we should destroy in order that we could be happy. I very dearly hope they won't fall into that pitfall, since that could very easily destroy all the beauty of the story if it becomes a tale about overcoming a bad guy. I will say that at least these shots make the Harkonnens look scary. But that is also an issue, since the main thing to fear for Paul and company are meant to be the Sardaukar, which are also meant to be, in many respects, similar to the Fremen, not evil. Lots of worrisome things in this trailer, and lots of visual splendor as well. I want to stress that it's not that I am opposed to the filmmakers changing the book on principle. Rather, I regret when something that is nuanced, complex, and rich is then traded in for some simplistic perspective that reeks of communism or a Christian outlook. This fiber optic looking tree thing could be the movie's version of the little stellar Bible thing from the book. I'm perfectly fine with that, as it certainly looks like a sculpture that represents the paths of destiny of time. It looks very cool. And the close-up of Paul's eye makes him look a bit inhuman or superhuman. In any case, Dr. Wellington Huey seems to be doing some sort of Reiki thing on Paul, or perhaps just listening to his pulse. A nice detail again, emphasizing human powers. He is not using some Star Trek device to ascertain the boy's health, but his body and senses. A cool looking shot of the floating Baron, like some sort of futuristic fat Dracula balloon. I read in an interview they planned to use a plastic fat suit to make Stellan Skarsgård look the part, but the brave actor chose to instead alter his diet to become morbidly obese and actually learned to levitate, which is amazing. This shot is by far my favorite in the trailer. The sense of scale given by the crowd of shadows running below these huge brutalist shapes. These then animate when an explosion activates the shields that protect them. It's just incredible fantasy imagery. We then have many more cool-looking action shots in succession, which I won't comment on, but I am suitably impressed. They look very similar to many other shots from previous Villeneuve films. Very elegant. The shields make combat look a bit like a video game, which is an interesting choice. It looks like a crowd of people is waving the Atreides goodbye in this shot. A nice scene that isn't in the book but expresses very well many beautiful emotions. I am all for them adding this sort of thing. And one final troublesome exchange to cap the trailer off. Really meek, lame dialogue that does not fit the story at all. A sort of weak-sounding Paul telling his father he might not be the future of the Atreides house. To which his father responds with an equally lame line about leaders being called. Basically, people that live as servants, and also that, hey son, listen, if you can manage to transform oxygen into carbon dioxide, if you do that much, then I'm satisfied. In the book, the Duke talks with his son to explain to him he has to make a choice whether to continue or not with training to become a human computer, a mentat. This is on top of all the other rigorous training he has been going through with his many diverse teachers. This is not at all like the characters from the book, which are very noble, proud creatures that live impossibly demanding lives of constant strife and struggle, a restless, superhuman, claustrophobic existence. That is the life of a hero in a Dune book. These two even look lame in the rain, mopey and sad, pathetic. Basically, that's the idea here. The visuals are awesome, like this badass eye-looking worm, but the themes and ideas often feel butchered and mangled, losing all nuance and trading in patrician pride for weak, postmodern, participation trophy, Manichaean values. Let us at least celebrate the cool images. Well, we get a bunch of them before this ends. We see a heroic back confronting a desert landscape, which almost looks like a stage. Then a really amazing shot of ninja-like soldiers rushing forward in the dark. Symmetrical and has a superb sense of depth. The little shield glow activations, accents in the dark, look great. Then there's more stuff and stuff and stuff, all looking really sleek. And the final sequence that is just pure amazing fantasy, with Fremen warriors emerging from the desert sand, clad in golden, ninja-looking armor. The tracking shot of Paul advancing among identical-looking fellow soldiers expresses well this idea of him being this statistical anomaly hiding among endless mundane creatures. He reveals his face and we see a majestic worm in the background tearing some shit up. This really looks like Dune should. No matter if the Fremen don't wear armor like that in the books. What is important is to keep the soul of the thing. I really hope the final film does, even if this trailer has a lot of lame, worrisome shit. On a final note, the voice at the end of the trailer really sounds like the product of a composer excited about his work. So that's great. I'm not a huge fan of Hans Zimmer, but the man's contribution to Blade Runner 2049 was more than adequate. So here's hoping the Dune score will at the very least reach that level. Anyway, have a nice one.